It's Monday, July 25th, 2011. I'm Peter Busch. Welcome to the Morning Swim Show studios and another World Championship edition of the show. Day 2 of the meet is complete, and joining us now from Shanghai to recap the races, Swimming World Magazine senior writer John Lohn. John, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Peter. Thanks.
All right, great night of swimming there in Shanghai. Let's start off with the women's 100 fly. Dana Vollmer, after looking strong in the prelims and the semifinals, sneaks out the win, 56-87. Coots and Lu Ying made a late charge, made it close, but Vollmer seemed like she was the best flyer in the pool from start to finish.
Yeah, Dana got off to a tremendous start in prelims, carried that momentum into the semifinals, and hey, once you get to the championship final, it's all about getting your hand on the wall first. The time secondary. Yeah, she was a little bit slower, but she has her world championship. Got the job done.
What do you make of Sarah Sjöström, the world record holder who went 56 flat in 09, in a suit, of course, but not even close to that now, 57-3?
Yeah, I expected her to be 56 something tonight. She is a tremendous, usually a closer over the last 50. Yeah, you could say the suit obviously helped her more so than others. She is still a young teenage girl. 57 lows, nice. She'll be a factor next year at the Olympics anyway.
All right, men's 100 back. The French look great. Jeremy Stravius is your top qualifier after the semis, 52-7. Lecourt's third. I got to say, though, I'm pretty impressed with the American men. 4th and 6th, considering no Pearsall, no Grievers, the guys who went 1-2 in Beijing. I mean, these guys, they're not at the top right now, but you still feel pretty confident about American backstrokers.
This was a key for them tonight. Everybody's been talking about how do you replace an Aaron Pearsall, and like you said, Matt Griever's not making this team. They needed some guys to fill in there to show that they're going to have a strong opening leg on the medley relay. And now Plummer and Thoman have both positioned themselves for potentially making a run at a bronze medal. Is it asking a lot? Probably, because Irier is going to be in the mix as well as the two Frenchmen. But at least they're not going to be, it doesn't look like they'll be as far behind the 8 ball as maybe we thought at one point could have been the case.
I know you predicted the French men to win that 400 medley relay. Certainly looks like a good prediction with this kind of backstroke leadoff. I think the middle legs are going to be key. We'll talk about it more later. But again, the French backstrokers looking real good after the semis. All right, moving on. Women's 100 breaststroke. Rebecca Soni has been remarkably consistent the past couple years. Continues her domination, explodes with a 104.91. What was the crowd like after that sub-105 swim?
It was exciting. It's not nearly exciting as when one of the Chinese does something, but is there an event in this meet that is more of a guarantee than when Rebecca Soni steps on the blocks? I can't think of one. She's absolutely going to own this thing tomorrow night. The question is, can she get down to the 104.4 range that Jessica Hardy did wearing one of the super suits? It's doable. That's how good Rebecca looks.
It's too bad Hardy's not swimming this. I think she is best positioned to give Rebecca a run, if anybody can, in that 100 breaststroke. But next year, something to look out for. Hey, just curious, how did Amanda Beard look to you, and what was the buzz about her? She didn't, I know the 100's not her best event, but still, 108, she can't be too thrilled with that.
No, I think if we had seen Amanda go in the 107s, that would have been a much better sign for her 200 breast. She didn't look great, and there's no other way to go around it. I had her pegged for maybe and it was out on a limb thing, going a bronze medal in the 200 breaststroke. I do not feel good about that pick right now.
All right, there's some news coming out of the men's 50 fly, and not just because of what happened necessarily between the start and the finish. Cesar Cieloapos, as a lot of people expected, wins in 23-1, and there's some controversy surrounding his even swimming at this event after testing positive for a banned substance, but essentially getting a pass by many people's standards, by FINA, to keep swimming. He wins the event, and then tell us what happened, not just with Cielo and what he did, but one of his competitors making a gesture to the crowd that's definitely getting news around the world.
Right, Cielo wins the race and pretty much loses it emotionally in the water, is sobbing. And he again started sobbing on the medal stand. We saw that in Beijing after he won the 50 free. While he was sobbing, the crowd really started going crazy for him one of the swimmers walking away, and it was difficult to see because they were in a pile, but kind of gestured with a thumbs down toward the crowd, and it was taken by many of us in the press area as not believing Cielo should have been swimming at all to begin with. And obviously, with a lot of the Twitter stuff, Schoeman said it the other day, there are people who do not believe that Cesar Cielo should be racing here because he tested positive and is getting a free pass into the World Championships.
We've seen some reports that the person who did the thumbs down to the crowd was Jason Dunford of Kenya,
Right.
former Stanford swimmer, but you couldn't see for sure?
What happened when they were getting out of the pool, there was kind of a mix and mash, and so it was very quick. So we couldn't identify it, but that is what's understood, is that it was Dunford.
Interesting. Well, I'm sure this will not be the last we hear of that. All right, John, before we get to the men's 200 free and the rest of the events for tonight, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back here with John Lohn. John, the next event tonight was the women's 100 backstroke. Natalie Coughlin, I swear, she could take 3 years off, come back, and she's still the one to beat in this race. This looks like it's going to be a great semi, but she's leading the way with 59.3. That's a pretty darn good time.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what Natalie does. She bypassed the last World Championships. No big deal. It was during the suit era anyway. Comes back and has really firmly established herself as the favorite once again. She's the two-time defending Olympic champion. Emily Seebohm, who maybe the Australians have this thing about being sick and swimming well, because Seebohm's had every ailment there is this year, and she comes out and goes 59.5 in the semis tonight. So maybe she can give Natalie a run, but I'll be stunned tomorrow if Natalie's not on the top step of the podium. The disappointing swim in that was Aya Terakawa from Japan, who a lot of people had pegged as potentially winning the event. She barely squeezed in as number 8, and it doesn't look like she's going to go any better than the 59.8 that she put up in the semis.
I think it's going to be a great race, though. Zueva is right behind Coughlin in qualifying. Zhao Ling, Chinese girl, Seebohm. I mean, I think there's going to be 4 or 5 girls there right in the finish. What do you think of Pelton? 1001. Not a bad swim, but she's not going to be a contender.
No, and what would have been nice, actually, is if Missy Franklin could have raced the 100 backstroke here and Pelton the 200 back, because that's probably what they're better geared toward. But hey, this is the way things broke last year between Nationals and Pan Packs. So we'll see what Pelton does in terms of getting back on track for Omaha next year.
Yeah, that's one of those frustrating things. I got to believe if the qualifier for this meet was held a few weeks ago, Missy Franklin would be swimming that 100 backstroke for sure. But
Absolutely.
again, that's another discussion for another day. All right, I know one of the events we're all looking forward to seeing tomorrow is the men's 200 free final. So far, they're just, I don't know, they're not getting me too excited. Yannick Agnel from France, a guy we've seen up and coming for a couple of years now. It's your top qualifier, dipped under 146, 145.6. Paul Biederman second, Lochte third, Michael Phelps fifth. Now, I don't worry about Phelps because I know he's got a gear he can turn on whenever he wants. But 146.9 in the semis, especially when you see that second half was not very strong at all. I mean, are there any concerns that he can really win this thing?
I'm wondering if he can medal in it right now, which sounds crazy. And Michael, he might be able to turn it on because he always has been able to. But he did not look good tonight. Taewon Park, with the way he swam the 400 free to win on the opening night of competition, I'll be shocked if he doesn't win this thing. I think Lochte's going to be fine. I was like you, Peter, disappointed a little bit in the semifinal times. I was maybe hoping for a couple 145 lows, maybe even a 144 high, because I thought it was going to be a little bit more of the guys saying, hey, I better not take a chance here. We didn't see that. But yeah, there are some concerns with how whether he's going to really make an impact here tomorrow night or not. Fifth is not exactly where we thought he'd be.
I'm just saying Lochte or Phelps may win this event, but they're not going to dominate it like some people thought they might. I mean, if you're going to dominate an event, you don't get third and fifth in semis with times like that. I mean, you clearly establish yourself, at least by the semifinals. And I think if Lochte wins, it's going to be kind of a photo finish type of win. Yeah. And no, I'm putting my stamp as the best swimmer in the world type of performance.
Yeah, and Taewon Park being in that field automatically eliminates the possibility of it being a dominating win, because he's not going to be dominating. He could be the one doing the dominating the way he's looking, but we'll find out tomorrow.
All right, I'm kind of excited to talk about this next swim because for once I was right about a prediction. The women's 200 IM, this Yixi Wen, 15 years old, I believe. This Chinese girl, I just was looking at her splits from the semifinals, and I thought, okay, there's something here with this girl. And sure enough, she must have sent that home crowd into a frenzy with a 2:08.9, beating the most established IMers in the world.
The place was definitely rocking. You nailed the splits too when you were seeing this yesterday. She was 9/10 of a second faster than Alicia Coutts, who was the second fastest on the freestyle leg. So she outsplit the second fastest split by almost a second. She gained basically a second and a half on everybody else other than Coutts on the 50 free. And that's ridiculous.
I was going to say she was more than a second and a half faster than Ariana Kukers. And Kukers is a pretty good freestyler and closer in that event.
A very nice closer, and she made everybody look like they were standing still in the water. It was unbelievable the way she was just tracking people down. And with every single stroke, that crowd was just getting more and more into it. It was a tremendous atmosphere. It was really exciting to see.
All right, so definitely race of the night for the locals there in China. Very cool to see. Caitlin Leverance is having a nice meet. I mean, 2:10 is a good swim for her. I've got a good feeling about her as we look to next year in the qualifying. I mean, I think Amanda Beard's got to be a little nervous that Caitlin Leverance is swimming so well and presumably would do so in the two breast as well.
Yeah, I think you're right on target with there. And Caitlin had a very consistent run right through the rounds, 2:11 low, and then 2:10.4. That's very nice to see her continuing the momentum that she really established last year out in Irvine.
All right. The women's 200 IM was probably the feel-good swim of the night for the locals. But I got to say the feel-good story of the day in terms of a worldwide perspective has got to be Alexander Dale Oenapos of Norway winning the 100 breaststroke with everything that his country's going through, probably wishing he could be there in many ways. But a dominating 100 breaststroke, 58.7, crushed not only Kitajima, but everybody else in the pool.
He took the thing out in 27.20, which we all saw the split at the 50, and everybody kind of did a double take because that's been a time that's won a world title in the 50 breast. And he came on and just was stronger than everybody else except for Danny Yurta on the last 50, and Yurta's obviously one of the best endurance guys in the world. It was so impressive, and he's had so much on his mind, and he hasn't shied away from talking about that. He does. He wishes he was back in Norway. He's hurting badly for his country right now, and just said all the right things today about hoping maybe this can provide a little bit of a distraction for everyone back home. Maybe they can take a little bit of happiness out of what he provided, and he's looking forward to going back and doing what he can to pick up morale in a country right now that really needs it. Good for him.
Good for him. Sounds like a good guy. All right, we should mention Fabio Scozzoli from Italy gets second, 59.4. Cameron Vandenberg right behind him. Kitajima didn't even break a minute in the final. That is very unlike him.
Yeah, he did look like he was struggling toward the finish of his semifinal last night when I believe he was 59.7. Clearly that was all he had. Very surprising because typically the year before an Olympics, he is usually on his game. In 07, he won the 200 breast title in Melbourne. In 03, he won both breaststrokes before Athens. So I expected him to lay some nice groundwork for next year in London, and that wasn't the case. And coming off of the way he looked at Pan Pacs last year, kind of an unusual performance from Kusike.
All right, finally, I want to mention Mark Gangloff from the U.S. gets 8th with a 005, and his swims both in the prelims, semis, and finals couldn't have given the American coaches a lot of confidence because we're hearing that they held kind kind of a swim-off between all the American breaststrokers between sessions to try and establish who's going to be on that medley relay later in the meet?
It looks like what happened was they had a swim-off after the morning session. Eric Chanteau clearly won the swim-off. So the question now is whether that was just to see whether he's on a prelim for the medley or on the final. But I got to assume that means they're going to put Chanteau on the medley relay final, because they're just not. I mean, obviously Alexandrov you can't do anything with because he just didn't look good at all. And Gangloff, that's not enough. So if you can get a guy who's going to maybe give you a 59-5 split, 59-3 split off a roll, you have to go with it. So they were all standing around the U.S. coaching staff with their stopwatches today. There was nothing for us to see in terms of on the digital scoreboard, but clearly Chanteau won the swim-off.
Well, that's clearly the weak link in the American relay right now, that breaststroke leg on the guy's side. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Well, John, thanks again for recapping day 2. Have a good night's sleep there in Shanghai, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good, Peter. Thanks.
All right, that's John Lohn joining us from Shanghai. Hope you enjoyed this recap of day 2 of the World Championships. I'm Peter Busch. Thanks for watching.